I want to play Shadow the Hedgehog. And yes, I know it isn't a good game, but I enjoy it anyway, so it's good to me. I need my Shadow fix, and I don't think I can be blamed for that. Now, here's the problem. Shadow the Hedgehog has 326 possible story paths that you can play through. Now that does sound impressive, but the thing is, there's only a limited number of cutscenes in the game, and they aren't really based on your actions necessarily, they're more just based on you getting to the levels associated with them. So depending on the path you take, a lot of the time the story will be almost nonsensical, but we'll come back to that. Each of the story paths in the game is cataloged, numbered, and given its own title in the game's library section, and my god, I would not have wanted to be the Sega employee who had to do all of that. So what are we doing here? Why am I telling you all of this? Well, if you're familiar with me at all, you probably know that decision making is not one of my strong suits. I have some pretty massive ED, that's executive dysfunction, by the way, I probably could have worded that better. That being said, I want to play Shadow the Hedgehog, but I don't want the responsibility of deciding which one of the 326 paths to play through. So I decided to let RNG make that decision for me. What I did was I quickly made a picker wheel with the numbers 1 to 326 on it. There's no way it lets me do 326 inputs, right? Oh my god. And I'm going to be playing through and trying to make sense of the story that RNG just picks out for me. All of that said, let's spin the wheel. Okay, so path number 62 is called Black Angel, and this is the path we need to take for it. By the way, this graphic and the list of story paths that I just showed comes from sonicretro.org, and they've got each path listed with the missions you have to do in each level to satisfy each path. The dedication is insane, and if for some reason you need this information, this is the best resource I could find. So let's see whether this path makes any sense whatsoever. Honestly, my expectations are low, but I am looking forward to this. We start with our regular introduction cutscene. If you've played this game before, you've probably seen this like 48 times, but for those who are new, Amnesiac Shadow is trying to figure out his past. He sees the aliens come down, starts smacking up Westopolis. Black Doom appears, gives Shadow his sales pitch, which is basically just, hey, be my errand boy, get me the Chaos Emeralds, and I will tell you who and what you are. Shadow figures that some information is better than none, so he goes into the city to assess the situation. This brings us into Westopolis, and at this point, this is where we have to start making story decisions. So for the Black Angel story path, we have to do the Dark mission in this level. So Shadow starts off his journey by aligning with Black Doom and wiping out gun soldiers who are quote-unquote the good guys in this situation. In the story context, I guess we can reason that Shadow thinks big scary alien information about his past is better than the absolutely nothing he started with, so that kind of makes sense. We're accompanied by Doom's, chocolate starfish, who berates us for being late even though we just talked to the big guy like 30 seconds ago. Dude, you need to calm down, you need to be patient. We take out the prescribed amount of soldiers as per Doom's orders and grab the Chaos Emerald. After the events of Westopolis, the gun commander, who I guess is the head honcho of that organization, is told that Shadow is working with the aliens and he just kind of mauls about it. That's really all this cutscene is. After that, we join back up with Shadow, who beats up a couple of soldiers who really seem like it's their first day on the job.
Coming through. Stop! Don't move, or we'll shoot! Stupid humans.
Black Doom is impressed by this and tells Shadow to physically insert himself into the internet to find the third Chaos Emerald. I don't know how that works, dude. Entering Digital Circuit, Black Doom wants Shadow to shut down the CIA's mainframe, but Shadow meets up with Rouge, whose only goal is to secure the Chaos Emerald. So, long story short, Shadow discovers internet Batgirls are in fact real, ditches Black Doom literally immediately to simp for Rouge instead. Sorry about this, but I've had an awakening. After the events of Digital Circuit, the President is informed about Westopolis being completely overrun and the CIA mainframe being compromised by the Black Arms. For some reason, this causes the President to get nostalgic for Sonic Adventure 2, and that's basically the end of this cutscene. This one seems really irrelevant to the rest of what's going on, to be perfectly honest. Meanwhile, Shadow arrives on Prison Island, which for those unfamiliar is a hugely significant location to him. Shadow starts getting glimpses of his memory back, which may seem insignificant or only relevant to this level on the surface, but in my mind this marks a turning point in this story path. We'll come back to this. In the Prison Island level itself, Shadow ignores both Black Doom's request to take out Gun's remaining presence on the island, and also ignores Charmy's weirdly cringe Twitch chatter opening line,
Hey Shadow, I gotta ask you something.
And instead decides to try and find the Chaos Emerald on his own. In context, this does make sense because he just had some glimpses of his memory back, and he's probably more motivated by getting the Chaos Emerald and getting out than helping Black Doom or Charmy with basically busy work. After getting the emerald from Prison Island, we see Eggman just being made aware of the Black Arms invasion of Westopolis like 3 levels later. Dude's a little slow on the uptake, but whatever. Eggman gets pissed that the aliens are encroaching on his turf and orders his robot army to start pushing against the Black Arms invasion. Shortly thereafter, Shadow meets up with Black Doom again, and at this point we could reasonably assume Black Doom would be pissed off with Shadow, considering we've ignored his requests twice. But Shadow technically didn't do anything to work directly against or negatively impact Doom. I mean, Shadow still got the Chaos Emeralds in both situations. He ignored Doom's requests, he just didn't destroy the mainframe and digital circuit or take out the gun robots on Prison Island. So I guess they're still on okay terms? Anyway, Shadow and Doom both notice Robotnik's fleet.jpg, and Doom sends Shadow in to destroy it. In the Sky Troops level, Shadow happily obliges Doom's request, while Doom shit-talks Robotnik off and on for some reason.
2 ships destroyed. How pathetic. The scientist is an incompetent imbecile.
Doom also goes on a little bit of a tangent about his Black Hawks, and if you're like me and have the maturity of a 12-year-old, this was hilarious.
Use the control stick to make the Black Hawk fly up and down.
I'm sorry, to make the what? It's funny, because when I was playing through Digital Circuit, I actually almost made a joke about Black Doom. I'm just gonna play the clip. These things look disturbingly almost phallic to me. Is that what Black Doom's... Nope. Nope. It's just kind of funny how we can make fun of the sandworms and the Black Hawk, too. Anyway, Shadow happily obliges Doom's request to destroy Eggman's fleet, and then gets out. Afterward, we rejoin the human delegation, with the gun commander urging the president to evacuate. I guess the implication here is that because Shadow hasn't helped the gun keep control of the situation, stuff has kind of gone off the rails. But it's also worth noting that at this point, Shadow hasn't really worked against Gun either, except for in the very first level in Westopolis. Anyway, the commander seems optimistic that humanity can get their shit together, but still pushes to get the president to the gun helicarrier airship thing. I really don't know what this thing is. Black Doom and Shadow are for some reason right outside the White House while this is happening, and Black Doom urges Shadow to follow the president's evacuation. This brings us to the air fleet level, which starts with Tails screaming at Shadow
Shadow, we're in big trouble.
to help keep the Black Arms away from the president's escape pod. Pod? It kind of seems more like a full-on, like, Learjet to me, but whatever. Shadow has a loud noise anxiety or something and basically just tells Tails to fuck off and goes with Black Doom's plan to literally, okay, what can I say here? The current political climate has me afraid to summarize this part of the story, so we're just gonna say, Black Doom wants to Lee Harvey Oswald, John Wilkes Booth, the leader of the human settlement. Okay? Get in the picture? Cool. Actually, Black Doom's instructions to Shadow are kind of fucked up, to be honest. He literally tells Shadow, and I'm just gonna play the audio here.
Destroy that craft and kill their leader. Then watch its effect on the human.
So to paraphrase, Doom is basically saying, LOL, kill him and watch the people seethe. Kinda weird, but whatever. After taking out the escape pod, Shadow implies that the reason for going along with Doom is that he needs to know the truth. But apparently that reasoning doesn't exist when Rouge is involved. I don't know, man. So after literally blowing up the plane, the president somehow survives and is escorted into Gun HQ by the commander. A soldier runs in and informs the president and the commander that the Black Arms have breached the perimeter of their HQ and that Shadow is with them. The commander basically says throw everything at them, and definitely doesn't seem like he has any personal motivation at all. At the same time, Shadow arrives in the base and conveniently remembers Gerald saying, "I'm counting on you." Still can't quite figure out what triggered that memory, unless we assume that Prison Island was a springboard for Shadow's memory coming back, which would make sense. But then in that case, why would Shadow still have worked with Black Doom to take out Robotnik's fleet and then try to take out the president? Either way, Shadow now seems set on what he needs to do and goes into the Gun Fortress level. At this point, Shadow decides not to follow through with taking out Gun entirely, and once again simps for Rouge at the earliest opportunity. So we can read this in two ways. One, Shadow got enough of his memory back to remember that Gerald wanted him to help humanity and Rouge just happens to be aligned with that here. Or two, based on the events of Digital Circuit, Shadow is motivated by Rouge and her personality to take the good route. Either way, Shadow disobeys Doom's orders to shut down Gun's computer system and goes with Rouge to secure the Chaos Emerald instead. This leads to a confrontation with a rather pissed off Black Doom. Shadow now says he wants the emeralds for himself so he can figure things out on his own, but Doom doesn't like that and attacks Shadow and Rouge. My controller dies mid-fight, but somehow Doom still goes down without landing a single hit. Being defeated, Black Doom does the typical villain thing and confirms that his army will return, which actually kind of spoils the existence of Shadow Generation 19 years before it happens. In response, Shadow proclaims his desire to conquer the universe? So okay, to me this path seems salvageable as a story that could arguably make sense up until like the very last minute, literally. My take is that Shadow largely worked with Doom on the basis that Doom could have helped him figure out his past, but there were still situations where Shadow would do the right quote-unquote things. Or at least not outright evil shit, especially when motivated by Rouge. Now, you can read that as Shadow being a simp, or you can read it as Rouge being a significant person in Shadow's past, so she has some kind of pull on what he's gonna do, or both, because I think both are honestly valid takes. Prison Island seemed to me to be a turning point where Shadow's memory slowly started coming back to him, but we can assume that maybe Shadow still thought Doom seemed like the safest bet to get his memory back fully, so he continued working with Doom. This culminates at the gun fortress where Shadow remembers Gerald, which seems to make Shadow do a total 180 on Doom at the last minute. But instead of going on to work with the good guys to redeem himself, the final cutscene shows us that Shadow just wants to usurp Doom and rule on his own. It's just a really weird last minute turn that doesn't really fit with the implied direction that Shadow's morality was going. Considering Shadow could be motivated to do hero stuff when Rouge was involved, and that Shadow remembered Gerald, and that Rouge was with Shadow when he decided to turn on Doom right at the end, it really seemed like the story was heading for Shadow redeeming himself, only to basically go LOL fuck that in the last 20 seconds. Even the name of this story doesn't fit with this ending. To me, Black Angel invokes imagery of like an anti-hero, like a John Constantine or an L from Death Note or something. Yeah, they use some weird or immoral methods, but the intention and goal is ultimately something good. Shadow in this story path seems like he's going to go that way as well, right up until the ending, and then he even does an evil laugh. Like, how is this in line with the rest of what happens up until this point?
This is who I am.
Anyway, TLDR here is that this story kind of worked, like 95% of the way, but then the psych moment at the end kind of made it all fall apart in my opinion. But then I guess this kind of thing will happen when you only have a certain number of cutscenes to service 326 possible stories to tell, so I mean I get it. Not all of them are going to be good. It just kind of sucks that this one fell apart at the last minute. If you'd like to see me try to piece together more paths as chosen by RNGs, just let me know by liking or engaging with this video in whatever way you want to do. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in whatever I decide to do next. Later!